So hopefully you've had a chance to actually go through and create this modal yourself, because in this video, I'm going to show you how I would do it. The very first thing I want to do is link this script tag. So let's just come down here. We'll say script. It's going to have a source of our script.js, and we're going to defer this so it loads after our body. Now inside of that script.js, we can use this modal button here, this overlay, and this modal, as well as this close modal button to actually make all of this modal stuff work. So the first thing I want to do is select all the elements, and I even gave you the ID for each one of them right here. So we can say const modal is equal to document.query selector, and we're going to come in here with that pound sign and then modal. And in VS Code, if you want to copy an entire line, just have your cursor on a line, click Control C, and then Control V, and that'll allow you to paste the line. I do this all the time. So as you can see here, we copied that line, and now we're going to get the open modal button. And what we're going to do here is open modal button. Copy that down, and this is going to be our close modal button and a close modal button. And then finally, I'm just going to do that bonus for our overlay. So we can say in here, overlay. There we go. Now the next thing I want to do is create a click event listener for the open modal button that adds class open to the modal. And we're going to leave this bonus section off for now. So let's just come in here. We can say open modal button dot add event listener on the click event. And we want to run a function. And what this function does is add the class open to our modal. So we can say modal.classList. That's how we get our list of classes. .add to add a new class, and we want to add the class open. So now this should actually work. When we click open modal, it should open up our modal. And when we do, you can see it opened our modal without the overlay, because that's our bonus section. We're going to tackle that at the end. Now let's move on to our fourth step, which is to create a click event listener for the close modal button that closes it, because right now we don't actually do anything. So we can say close modal button dot add event listener. And you'll notice that when I'm typing stuff out, such as add event listener, and it just automatically populates everything like this, the way this works is I'm clicking tab. What tab will do is whatever the first thing highlighted in this list is, it'll just fill all that text in for you. It's really useful for when you're typing out a ton of code. So add event listener on click. And inside of here, all we want to do is take our modal.classList, and we want to remove the class for open. Let's just make sure I put the arrow inside of here. There we go. So here we're removing the class open it, and here we're adding it. So we can open it and we can close our modal. So we've essentially accomplished the basis of this. The next step is to do these bonus activities, which are for the overlay. So let's first in here add the class open to our overlay as well. So we'll say overlay.classList.add, and we're going to add it open class to our modal, or our overlay, sorry. So now when we open this, our overlay is showing up, and when we close, right now it's closing our modal, but we're not closing our overlay. So down here, we can say overlay.classList.remove, and we want to remove the open class from our overlay as well. So now all of that is working. The last thing to do is make it so when we click outside of our modal on our overlay, it also closes our modal. So to do that, we can say overlay.addEventListener on click. We want to run a function. And this function you're going to notice is going to do the exact same thing as clicking the close button. If we copy this down here, you'll notice when we click outside of our modal, it's going to close our modal for us. But you'll notice we kind of have copied code. This is the exact same code. It does the exact same thing and it serves the same purpose. This is where creating a function is really useful. We can say function close modal. This close modal function is just going to say modal.classList.remove. And we want to remove the open class list. And do the same thing for our overlay.classList.remove open. So now we have a function that encapsulates this behavior right here. Let's just remove this from both of these, and instead we're going to call this close modal function inside of them. As you can see, this works just the same as before. We can actually take this a step further even and just pass the reference to our close modal function here to each one of these, and that's going to do the exact same thing. It's going to call this function for us when we click on an event. Here we go. You can see it's properly working. We can close our modal. And the nice thing about this function version here is essentially we're creating a function that wraps this duplicated code. So that way, if we wanted to say, oh, you know what, we need to change the class we're removing here from open to open2. Now what's going to happen is it's going to propagate that to both of these changes. And you'll see it doesn't actually remove our overlay because it's not removing the correct class. So we can easily affect both of these in the exact same place. Let's put that back to how it was so that it's working as we expect. And this is a complete working example of the modal. Hopefully your code looks at least somewhat like this, but even if it doesn't, as long as your code works, that's really all that matters. Making your code working is 100% the most important thing, and there are multiple ways to get to that path, so even if your code doesn't look like mine, as long as it works, that's all that matters. Now that's everything about the basic DOM that I wanted to cover and a few different projects that we did. So in the next section of this course, we're going to talk about control flow and how you can modify the flow of your program, because right now everything we've written so far just goes from top to bottom. And I want to show you code where you can actually skip things, do things twice, do things 3 times, whatever it is. We can modify the flow of our code, which is really useful. I can't wait to see you in that video.